So I wanted to start on today onto the integrations. So just like having a questions on, so do you have any questions on the asynchronous apex that we have been so far taking on it? Because asynchronous apex is one of the very important things because they're not dealing with one single record. Always they go in a bulk records. Tomorrow we say that we are experienced professional, and then what type of questions would come for the experienced professional? So maybe this the same questions will not be there. What we try to ask, they won't ask you so directly, what is future? You tell me. What is Q? Will you tell me? But a scenario can be added to there. A scenario where a mixed DML error. So they don't tell you what is a mixed DML error, or they don't ask you directly why, where future can be used, or something like unprogrammed work pending. So they come with questions with, can you tell me any errors that you've been faced in the asynchronous apex? So that time you have to say, okay, this uncommitted work for a future, or somewhere the setup and non-setup objects are updating in the same go. So you may get this error. So then the question would start because um, asking 2 years of experience questions for a professional and maybe 5 years of a Salesforce professional would quite be different. So they may ask you a question something like, hey, I want to do a batch epics, or they won't tell you batch epics. Hey, take me. I have a 5 million records. I want to update all the records in SAP, and this should happen every day. Yeah, this type of questions can occur. So every day I want to update 5 million records to SAP system. Um, because we have transaction systems. Let's say, for example, we are Mastercard or Visa or what do you say? Um, so this type of a card-based company where you try to deal with each and every guy's transactions. We have no like Visa. You can also hold a Visa card. You can also hold a Visa card around the world for a Visa transaction in a single day can be millions of transactions can happen. So all these records has to do an update onto the SAP third-party systems, or could be an Oracle third-party system. How do you do it? All this record transaction is happening into the Salesforce. Uh, yeah, of course they have a scenario because Visa also works as a projects in Salesforce. This is actually a real-time question which has been thrown out for me a couple of years before. So I'm just like asking question like how do you try to process the millions of records to a third-party system? So of course we have one option is like batch we have, and then you need to invoke a service to a third-party system, and they should go chunk by chunk. So so first set of records would run, and then the second set would run. So you're trying to divide the batch into the let's say 5 million records. Of course, you're gonna give size as 200, 300, or 2000 max. But the response which you're gonna get from that particular third-party system should be clearly monitored. Because in one go you say 2000 records. What if you don't get a response within the frame seconds? So it'll be an issue. So you can say that the initial count could be 50 also is fine. Anyhow, they will run it on smoothly. So we want something, we send it, we need to get an acknowledgement. So this acknowledgement could be yes, this transaction received SAP system, something like that. So this type of questions you can expect it in an interview where they're asking you to process the millions of records. Sometimes millions of records you have to retrieve it from the other party systems, like say third party. Where often I should check with the SAP systems, every night 2 o'clock, and then I have to retrieve the bunch of records. So I'm hitting now to the SAP. Salesforce is trying to hit the SAP and getting all the data. So now this data also should be in a batch class where you are trying to repeatedly hitting the that third party URL and getting the data. And based on that, we are trying to update the records in Salesforce. So so anytime we talk about data or to and fro, so this is something where who is expose a service? There's a question would come up. Who exposes service? Salesforce or some third party they've exposed. So someone would be here. One of them would be consumer, another would be a producer. Or in simple terms, you can say someone who exposes service and we are invoking them. Or we expose service, someone is invoking them. So this is some like producer and consumer concepts we see in a general integration service or any web service we use these terms. So in meanwhile, do you have any other questions onto this? No question, guys.
No.
So Murthy and Kumar, you don't have any questions on this?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. So today I want to talk on to the Salesforce integration. So prior to that, so which type of integrations you would be dealing with? So we would be dealing with REST-based integration or SOAP-based integration. So any integration we talk about here is we would either expose a service or either we consume a service. Is getting in Apex integrations, what happens is either we try to expose a service or we try to invoke a service. So for some part of this example, I was thinking today morning, um, how do we match it up to our project? Let's say we are having a McDonald's project. In this McDonald's project, what to do is we generally deal with the restaurants, and others are the customers. Let's say individual customers or business customers. The key idea of this McDonald's is so they this is not the customer oriented application. This is about the where employees oriented applications where they try to see a backend system at system. So what is the transaction that we done for today, and how many people have ordered what, and what the customers, and where are our locations are located. If I want to have new locations, so where do I add the new locations? So restaurants being a location, I mean new restaurants for us. So where do you add it? Is you add it in account. So something this is the application we have. So for this, while we're talking about the trigger, we found the nearest restaurants wherever it is. Your customers you're entering based on your address. I'm locating your nearest restaurant branch. So this is what we did as few use cases. In the batch classes, we were trying to update 5 points I wanted to give for new customers or for all the existing customers. We run a batch class for them. So something like this. For an example, for individual customers, I wanted to add every customers as a person as the in the basis. I want to add them as individual customer, called as person. So this we try to run from the Kubel Apex. So like these multiple things we are doing it on the restaurant application. For restaurant, so for integration, mm, I think while you are opening a what do you say a restaurant, so you wanted to check the weather report, or you want to check the geolocations, or you wanted to check something onto the some service. So basically, the service are like open source service. We just trying to match to our project. So that is one thing which I want to say. But otherwise, so we'll bring up some use cases onto the restaurant based application and how do we solve these integration things. Because overall the project is written towards running onto the restaurant type. So we'll follow the same paradigm. But I'll just give in the meanwhile how we do integration. So one is we have always we try to expose a service from Salesforce, and the second point is we consume consume the service. So this third party could be anyone. So sometimes they have a mule application in the between, or sometimes they have a different connectors in the between. So you're writing a logical program. Only that is not the a key thing where you try to integrate to a system. So prior to these integrations, we have a very basic a concept of if you see external data source. I think you'll have heard external data source. So in this way, you try to connect to via through OData. OData is a connector. It connects to actually this is a connector. This connects to third party. In our example, we connected to Heroku systems. I think in the trailers, I think I've given a hyperlink saying that go ahead and then perform the external data source. So while doing the admin class, so what is this? Is external data source is just the connection connects between the Salesforce objects and to a third party Heroku. So basically what happens is you're just doing a point click operations here. So this would be a point click operation, point click integration. So what this point click integration indicates? So point clicks means you are doing via through a number of clicks and you're trying to do an integration to a third party system. So where you are having a concept of in the external data source, you are giving connections via through data and you're hitting to the third party system. So in the Heroku, so something like the order management, something they were having. So here they had a couple of tables they added. So what are the tables like say orders, order and order details, the multiple objects we had. I just removed two objects we have order details of something. Additionally, we have a couple of objects also we had there. So now what is our intention is in order management we have a couple of objects in third party system like say Heroku. So where the application name is order management. So I want to bring this data always to a Salesforce. So where the data source, what to do is we try to create an external objects in Salesforce. Actually, we don't try it actually to create an external objects. Doing this external data source, you do a connector, and then you have Heroku systems. So you have to basically sync the system, sync the connection. Once the connection is synced, it will ask you, hey, so these are the tables, these are the objects which is available there in the third party system. So do you want it to sync? If you say yes, so then automatically, whatever the objects that you have been set, you can choose them. Um, by choosing them, you are allowing them to create an external object in Salesforce. It's getting very simple. So in external data source, you're just trying to give connections. In the connections, what you give informations about which company, their URL, and username and a password. If you have, you're gonna give them using this OData connector. So this will go hit to the third party, whichever the connection is given. So it tries to get okay. This is the order management available in that particular link. So do you want it to the connection to be established? So you say yes, sync as yes, and then it whatever the object has been there available there it comes in the UI. So you choose them and you try to allow them to create it. So all the external objects has been whatever order details you see, it would have been created here in Salesforce. As what? As external objects would have been created. So so there would be in Salesforce it would be under underscore X. In Salesforce they would have been created. And um, all the data wherever they are in the order management for ecosystem, all the data daily it will flow to Salesforce. So you need not to do anything because this OData connector is doing making connections between these are the local whatever these external objects to the third party Heroku. The new data which is flowing in, you need to always click on a sync. So the moment you click on a sync, all the data would keep on flowing from Heroku to Salesforce via through external objects. Who is a connector? OData is a connector. So this is something a point click we have it. So if you have any questions onto this, I think you can go to external data source. So external data source, Salesforce Connect. Let me see. Yeah. So I think this is the good one. Um, Here they talk about go to setup, external data source, select external data source, and order DB is the third party systems where Salesforce OData connector is the 2.0 is the one we have. And this is the URL when you the moment you give it, what happens? But this URL seems to have a XML type. All the soap service like this they have. See, I said as orders, right? orders, order details, categories, payment method, mechanism. So these are the collections of objects they have in the third-party system. Then as soon as you hit the URL, you validate and sync. So these both the things will be created in our Salesforce. So you can choose them. Basically, you click on sync, and then what happens is, so your external data source and objects has been created. You can have indirect lookup or external lookup relationship. You can create them. So what is ideal way is you are trying to connect from the Salesforce to a third-party ecosystem to bring all the data to Salesforce. So this is the one way we have. So you can always go to this link and do some research on how do we go create an external data source. All the step by step they given. So by doing this, if you simply verify this step, so you will get points. This absolutely can do in your own developer, no issues with that. I'm just copying the link here. If you still wanted to understand how to the extended resource, what I was trying to say. So why I was bringing the point here is, see, there's always a point click integration also be available. Something like if someone asks you a question, do you have any point click integration existing in Salesforce? Of course, yes. So one is this, you do it. Another one is from a workflow, we have outbound message. From a workflow rule, if you see, so let me write as a workflow. So workflow, you can see there's an outbound message. So here this guy uses XML type of structure, or what is say a WSDL file. So this WSDL file we generate and send to the third-party systems. How do you say that we generate? So you just create a couple of fields which are things that wanted to go to third-party system. So what is this workflow basically indicates? Whenever you do a create, update, or activity from a Salesforce systems, we are trying to send a couple of fields to third-party systems. Now here we are the sender. Here we are the receiver. In this case, we are sending it from a workflow using an outbound message. Whenever you do see the workflow rule can be one what on create or update create or update or edit anything's fine. So you're doing it and then you're sending a couple of what do you say fields in outbound message. Let's say you're trying to deal on account, you're sending account related fields to third party output TP third party, but you are indicating in the outbound message who should be the a guy we are trying to connect here. Let's say, so if I wanted to connect to SAP, then I should tell that their endpoint URL. Of course, wherever you connect, you should say that which is the endpoint URL. Right? So this is the area gonna hit it, and this is their username and password, and take all these fields which is going from there here to Salesforce to that third-party system. All that we should be prepared with. I think when it created the outbound message, it indicated which are the fields you want to add. So we drag and choose which are the fields required. But that way, anytime you do a creator update, so it would hit the third party outbound message will be sent. So of course, this is also point click integration. Um, but look at this, we are trying to create a record or update a record. So they are doing a integration service to third party systems. Now this guys doesn't appear with the what is that uncommitted work pending because you are trying to deal with the update or insert a record. Of course, indirectly they are running a future method in the background, but they are doing a fire and forget concept. So you can see an invoke service being run where you can see an outbound messages. Let me log in here. Mm. So always guys, when you're talking to Salesforce, something they wanted to do a customization, ask them to hold on. Do we really require the customization? So can you please explain about your a project scenario where why integration is required? You can get this question upfront, or you can say what complexity we have. So we need to have an integration ourselves first. If it looks like very simple, then you could say that okay, this could all be achieved by through a simple point click. But if I say that I want to have this integration, okay, then if the client is ready to spend the money, okay, it's okay. Because you cannot, when I'm trying to hit directly from Salesforce to SAP, when you're doing a point-to-point connections, sometimes what happens? So if the simple records getting failed, or so we can't assume that. I mean, they also a couple of them they work with very good. So there is no issue comes up when you do a point-to-point integration from Salesforce to directly SAP. So they expose service I can submit, and then I'm dealing with them. It's okay. So then why all these connectors are required? So like say MuleSoft or other so many connectors we have layer 7 connectors, um, ESB, IBM. So this everyone has a connectors. Why? So let's say for example, so your system is a REST-based system, and their system is SOAP-based system. Now, let's say he talks in Chinese and I talk in English. So both the guys has to understand. So someone should be a mediator in the between. So they translate the language from a Chinese to English. Such translator what we call as a connectors. Is getting the point? So in the workflow rules, or you can see any outbound message, something that we have created in the system. So quick connect in the competitors list. I think for McDonald's. So we just quickly checked the competitors list. Could be KFC or someone else. So while creating these connections, the endpoint URL you have given, and then the WSDL is also there. So what this WSDL indicates? So what are the things that we're sending it? See fields to send. So we assume that okay, these are the 5 fields is always coming on a create and update to a record. Go to this URL, go to this WSDL file, and then fetch it. You can also send our session ID every time it's unique, so they can verify and then you can upgrade the system there. So this is the thing which is XML generated. So we are sending all the number of fields like say account, email, first name, last name, mobile name, and along with the RN ID, ROID, action ID, session ID, enterprise, all this we sending it. So based on this, they are trying to update a record. This is what? This is a point click operations. You just create a simple outbound aim, messages. Whenever you're trying to do insert or update, you're trying to choose the fields and choose the endpoint URL who are you writing with. That's it. And from which object is going in. This is all maximum we configured. Automatically it is generated the visual file for us. Along with these files, 5 fields, it only created such a big visual file for us and you're writing to this endpoint. So, and of course you are monitoring them via through this on message, right? So type the outbound message. Who knows whether the outbound message has been working or not? So this is the monitoring where you do. You click on outbound message. You can see them, which are the items got delivered. So which are the items got not delivered. At least for 24 hours, this message will be there. So you can easily notify what message went and how many attempts we made, whether the record has been saved there or not. So deliver notice what we have, all this indicates. So these are the point click operations that we do in integration. Of course, by default Salesforce has it. Now, if I say that, hey, I don't want this all these operations, I want a full custom logic to be implemented. So then you have to come up to the integration or REST base or SOAP base we have to implement. So I need to know whether the end system where they are whoever connecting to us. So what is that flexibility? So they say that hey, we are flexible with the SOAP. Okay, go with them. But doing with the SOAP, what you do is you try to deal with them all with the XML type of structure. But dealing with the rest, you all would do a structure of a JSON. Not necessarily SAP always deal with XML. So they can also deal with JSON, but majority of the systems of SOAP all they deal with XML. They can also accept the JSON structure. However, that JSON structure SOAP will understand back to XML type only. So they all deal with directly with XML only. For REST-based systems, you will connect with the JSON type of structure. So now why this JSON XML all I'm talking here is um, so we understand a language, right? When I talk about English, you understand. Yeah, if both the peoples are connecting with English, then we say they are JSON. If I say you are communicating with me with the Chinese, so you think that is a different language, and I'm a JSON guy. So both cannot understand. Some mediator should be there to process them. So of course, you sending an XML, I need to have a parser in my Salesforce systems. I can, I know, parse your results, whatever you're getting in, and then I can restructure back to my records. That also I can do. But generally, it will be very easy. When I hit a system, the response what you give is actually matters to me. We are writing a JSON. You think, getting? We are writing in a JSON structure. Um, okay, let's talk in a normal way before getting to this. I know maybe if you already understood about the integrations, um, then it's fine. Or in a simple way, we'll ask you if I say hello, so you would respond. See, two types of service we have. Again, here also we have two types of service where I indicate you synchronous synchronous integration, and we have asynchronous integration. These two types we always put there, sync and async. Why? Because we always say no, this is a written method, and these guys are word methods. Written method. Basically, they written something. For sure, they written something. So these guys fire and forget. Agree? So in the written concept, in the same integration also, I can have these two types of things. Let's put this way. Of course, in both the case, we can have this. Okay? It's very common. So we are using synchronous service. Are you exposing or consuming it? Fine. Are you using a sync service? Are you exposing a service? Are you consuming a service? So why this is a sync we talk about? We're returning something. Here, very simple is I say I send hello message. I would expect something like say, hey, hi, something. If a person one talks hello, a person two replies back with the messages, hey, hello, hi, whatever it is. So here basically we are responding them back. In this case, we don't respond. It's just like a broadcast message. Example, conversation. We expect a response. Of course, someone is talking and I'm not talking. It's also weird. So so we talk and you also return back to talk. So that is what we say is you get a response. Basically, you have written method there. Something you hitting them and you're getting the results. When I say hello, you say hi. If this comes in English, I think I'm pretty easy to understand. And when I say hello, if you respond with this, something like this, no, how will I understand? Just getting? I am talking in terms of requesting as hello. I should get something like in English, I would understand. But if you get something like this, you don't understand, right? So, of course, this is a language of a thing. Then we need a translator to do this activity. So there's a piece which I'm talking about. If allow is a JSON, so that is what we say as request. The structure goes on JSON. Whatever you try to do, you send a list of information, you're sending in JSON request. Of course, if I get a JSON response, so then it is easy for us. The same way, you're trying to talk with a SOAP of an XML structure, you send a request of an XML structure as SOAP, you receive a SOAP. It's pretty easy to work with both the guys the same language. But if it have a different things, you need to have someone to parse them or a converters. We need to have them in the between, saying that hey, you give this, okay, you take this. So someone should be there as a mediator in the between. So that is the reason we have multiple people as a connectors, or we say mediators. So many things we can give a name to them. So they are all MuleSoft, IBM, MuleSoft. So a couple of them they have. You guys, any questions here?
No good cut.
Any connectors we use? And so could be connectors or middleware tools we talked. So you can give them any name. So these guys could be a simple example is OData is a mediator or a connector. Or these are things which you can see as a soft. IBM ESB. Um, what else? Layer 7. Overcast. And so on. So there are multiple mediators you'll get in the market like Soft, IBM ESB, Layer 7, Overcast. So there's many mediator tools that we have. So these guys are helping up from our third-party systems. Via through these guys we connect to our Salesforce. Now, when we have such mediators, who we are related with, if thing, Salesforce is trying to connect to this mediator if you think. Now, these guys will give you an endpoint. You simply have to connect from this guys to this guy. I will draw a simple picture. So let's say this is Salesforce systems, and it's not necessarily always we need to have a mediator here. It's not necessary. Always we need to have a mediator like this. So I would assume this guy as um, okay middleware, and this middleware could be let's say MuleSoft. So MuleSoft is a Salesforce product now. So Salesforce has acquired. So from here, you're trying to make a connectivity from a Salesforce system to a third-party systems here. Now let's assume this is Salesforce system. Salesforce. So what you're trying to do is send it here. So you are trying to invoke or basically consume. Um, so actually, you're trying to buy consume raw materials for your what do you say to make something like onto the restaurant. You need something like a raw materials, right? So consume raw materials. So the raw materials are something like the first point would be we generally consume the raw materials, whether we say that the raw materials is available or not. And the raw material types also could be you are trying to get it as a wheat, um, whatever, flours, whatever you're trying to purchase from them as the raw materials, is it available or not? So this is always you're checking with the systems, and it just goes invokes and actually we try to invoke via through endpoint. Endpoint indicates who is you are like going to connect with. We directly don't have a connection with maybe who is the producer for us in this case. So they have an SAP order management for this order management for which company someone who's like so these guys are McDonald's. So they have a system. So McDonald's uses Salesforce to in order to do a purchase request. So order management for these other guys, who is the basic suppliers, who is the manufacturers of Tata, Ashirwad. So someone like ITC, Ashir. ITC Ashirwad is our products are the company which is trying to manufacture and then they do it. Now this system is completely built on XML and other stuff because they expose a service using XML. So they have exposed services in visual format. So if you want to make order, take this as visual to you. Go hit this, you will be making an order arrangement. So they have made it very clearly. So point one, how do you create a order request for the wheats? Okay, so API is something like say create uh, wheat, create wheat request, something to say. So in this, what you send it is you're gonna send how many kgs required or how many bags you require. So bags, because this is some. Okay, let me record it. So what I was saying is, we are a McDonald's-based systems with the sales McDonald's using Salesforce, and I have to do an order arrangement. So where I wanted to order the raw materials from a ITC. In order to order from the ITC from our systems, so because as being a McDonald's, we can order for so many things, right? As raw materials. So we would require a wheat, flour, and any other vegetables we wanted to order because this is the raw materials always the McDonald's would require for their preparation of the food. So in that case, for all these wheats and flours, so they are the vendors who they having it, like ITC, Ashirwad, or any other manufacturing companies onto the wheat flour. So you can order with them. So they all becomes the vendors for you. To make an order arrangement, so you have middleware here in the between. So we don't know. ITC Ashirwad, they have an asset order management systems. So of course we know to whom we are making order. So we know that the McDonald's for which locations you're ordering, we would send the all the raw materials to the respective place. Now, ITC has exposed service and visitor. So create a wheat request. So you have to send a bags. Along with that, you can send a address also. So it's not only bag. Um, you can along with the bags, there would be address location also. So what are the key points that we have to send it? Come on, address. So by doing such order, so what we do is we try to send this request. Okay, no problem. So you are creating a wait request that takes the inputs of bags and address. How many number of bags you wanted to send and which locations you have to send it. So such wait request you are creating it here. So in response, they would be sending back you with a response. Something that which you expect here, no? So you have made a request which came, which is went in this, and something they give a response. So that is something coming like this. You think. So this is coming to third party system to you with to the Salesforce. So in the to the endpoint, of course, whose endpoint is given here, shared by the ITC Ashirwa. If I directly connect with these guys, sorry, if I directly wanted to connect with these guys, so I may not require this MuleSoft in the between. So where both our language are exchanged in the same language. Hey, this SAP is expecting me to have a visual file. Okay, hey, ITC please share the all these files to us, visual files. So he has mentioned in that particular visual file, it's just like a rule book. How do you create wait request? How do you create auto request? How do you create a flow request? So Holly has given me a bunch of requests in a visual file. So I have to use them into Salesforce. And how do I make a request? From a Salesforce, I can hit to them directly. It is one to one. But if you say that the middleware, so these guys are dealing with the SOAP-based systems, you think, and we are dealing with the REST-based system, you think, because REST is the easy way to understand. If you think, okay, so then we can directly have a connection. See, sometimes it may not work. So in this between middleware we have brought it up called as MuleSoft. What they're doing is they are converting the requests. So they're acting like a mediator for us. So they are converting the request. They're converting the request. It should be here in both the ways I'm saying. Converting the request to and fro. So both they do it and they send you back in understandable format. Let's say this format you are sending in, you are sharing the response in JSON format. Okay. So you are sending it as a JSON. So these guys are converting them to an understandable format to SAP, and they're getting the right results and then getting back to. So basically, this guys is converting a JSON to a SOAP, JSON to XML, whatever SOAP is XML. Okay, and again while returning it, so they again converting the SOAP based XML to a JSON. So both the ways they're doing it. So JSON to SOAP it went from here, and the response which is coming from there, we're getting back to here. So basically, I'm saying this: they are converting the request and from a JSON. So that's the main piece of the middleware. Now, when we say endpoint, that endpoint could be shared by the MuleSoft or could be by the Azure one, because post the conversion, so they don't allow you to see the other system. So they would be the friend shield as looking at only for these guys. You don't know what that ITC Azure or SOAP SAP all doing it. We don't know. We always communicate to the nearest guy who is this is the guy. So we always return come to this guy. We send an endpoint request. So this guy would give a response to us. So who is the nearest endpoint connector? If you see, this MuleSoft front will be there, because we don't know where this MuleSoft is again connecting and what is their pain point. We don't know. So always we from a Salesforce we try to connect to the MuleSoft and then we get the information. So sometimes we don't expose to the other endpoint people who are there. It's getting here. So it is as simple as McDonald's wanted to communicate to ITC. If the connection is so open, direct to direct, point to point, of course we can connect them. Or else, so the ITC has been invoked, no, implemented a middleware. It says to the people, hey, go connect to this endpoint, get the request which you request from the MuleSoft, use them, invoke them and use them. So where you send request to this MuleSoft and where you get response from them only. So request and response are flowing from here only. So based on this, you send a request of what? Let's say we are trying to order the wheat request. So I'm saying that wheat request. So we require wheat. So we're sending 25 bags and then address is Kukatpally. More detail explain, no? Hyderabad. So all the proper address is setting it. But doing the sending a request, so you get a response. So this is a request you think. So you require a wheat to the Kukatpally, you're sending this request. In response, they're saying sending that okay. Um, success we get as true. Yes, of course they are available, and we say order placed. Message order placed. So this is a response you think they're sending it. So this type of whatever I'm saying, writing in a simple format could be all sending in JSON. So a proper structure is open. So wheat kgs and Kukatpally, they'll be sending it. In response, you're getting it as success true message order placed successfully and delivery date. So they're saying that. So maybe you are getting it on 25th. So 03/20. So this is a readable format which I'm writing it here. You getting? So a JSON structure if you're looking for, so they may say that response, whatever they can, I mean, so they can have a proper JSON structure like this. message could be in double quotes autoplay successfully. After the true, they can have a comma, and after they delete it, actually success itself is a string for them. Success true. Now the next parameter is message. The next parameter is delete and delivery date, and then this. So you should have a next parameter as a comma. Okay. So this type of response would come from them. So this entire concept is coming as a JSON. So basically, what we call this is a JSON response. So we are receiving. So the moment you test service to the mule, so they are sending a response. You are placed wheat request, so they are sending the response to you. Is any questions here?
Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
So if you say in readable format, this is a readable format. But if you say in JSON response, they're coming this with this value. So basically, you are a McDonald's system, you are trying to place an order. So that goes to all the way to third party system and gets in. But if you have mediator in the between, so you're just communicating with them. So you don't worry about who is the backend system done. So mule system said you, hey, connect this endpoint URL and raise this as a request method. When we trying to connect with third party, let's say from middleware also you think to make an handshake connection. So you expect few things. I won't accept if on the roadside people someone goes, I won't talk to them unless and until I'm a known guy to me. How would I say that he's a known guy to me? So first thing is I should know his name or somewhere I should seen him or at least I should have a knowledge of talking to him where in the past I would have talked. So my brain indicates that saying that hey, this is a known guy. So then what I do? So after the moment I see, I just say hi. So from the other end, he would say hi. If he remembers, you say hi. If he doesn't remember, it doesn't say hi. So if he says the hi means what? So the first connection establishment is happening, where me and him always have a already we have a connected. So we are trying to establish a connection. So this could be authorizing at the very beginning. This could be an authorizing point where we try to connect both. So you say that your endpoint, you say that you have exchanged with your credentials, username and password, all that you think. So with the moment he is trying to reply for me back, so then that means what? Or else he's simply smiling also that makes sense of we already both are connected. So that is the first point we have. And the next thing he's asking is, how are you? What are you doing? So those are the service where he's sending a request. You are sending a request to ask him, how are you? So he responds back with the response, I'm fine. So that's all the service that which we are generally exposed. These are the key things, when you meet a person asking. Now, when you make an order management, so okay, let's say we said hi, or we just smiled it off. So the connection is established. What is the request you're going to make it now? In general, with two-person meets, they are asking, how are you? So in terms of connecting with some management system, like you are trying to make an order, so you itself, you went to creating a wait request. So here you are asking to that particular guy, wait request, this 25 bags and this address. Now he is saying response, yes, available, order is placed. Maybe you will ask a question, yes, do you want to place an order? You say yes. So that would be one more connections where you send a response and request that happens. Now response came back as yes. So how many? Okay, 25 bags and this address can you deliver? Yes, of course I can deliver. Take this message, successfully placed, order ID number, and take this delivered it. So I think along with this, if you have an order ID, that will be still more good. I'm saying in general. So take this order ID. Um, so order number or order ID, whatever it is you can call. So order number. So you can see the number which is flowing in. ITC some number. This is an order number which you got. So every params after there should be comma. So it is starting with and then ends in this. So if you just type this all this in a JSON and you can validate them whether this is a proper request or not. So JSON always have a key terms. In the left hand side you have all the keys and the right hand side all you have values. So this is so easy one where you have success text message, message text message, delivery date, date type. So number you're getting this. Sometimes this could be a array of records also. So this guy sent vTerraflow request. So it went to third party system and get me what are the different types of weeds they have. So ragi, what is it? Ragi wheat flour available, or godim wheat flour available, or whatever. So multiple wheat flours which are available. So they will send in a list. So that time there is not one single request which you're getting in. So they are asking you to confirm. Please select which floor respective you wanted it, and based on that only I'll send the success response for the order placement. So could be that way also. So these guys have exposed the service, expose service. So the service could be a multiple. So creating a wait request, sending the so they only will send you out. So how do you connect with me, and now what are the response I want to send to you? You go to any third-party systems, so they would always send you what is the request that we have to give. So this is the last net which we connected, and so this is a response structure which we're having it. So what request we have sending and what response we get, and based on that we try to invoke the Apex class. So such things. So some JSON request we have for test class, and what response we get, we just test against them. So we'll come to there. It's not, I mean, it's not too far. So okay, now again, quickly talking on recapping on them. So we have point click integration. So where we say extended source and workflow we have. No, I don't want this. I wanted to create absolutely an external source, external application, which is a custom integration I want to develop. So then we just fall into two categories where we say in integration we have JSON, which is the REST based or SOAP based system. So where and all I can use REST, where and all I can use REST if people can ask. So REST works good with web-based application, web-based application where you don't need to waste time on making something like see this order request you're doing it. It's a web-based activity. Or McDonald's itself, majority they are dealing with the web-based thing for making order or something system. So you can have a REST-based application or say REST-based callout you can have. So when generally REST are good for web-based application. Um, Simple info exchange, simple information exchange, or quick results you wanted to get it. So the rest is very good for that. So generally web-based application I'm saying. So now whatever the order management you're doing it, so they allow you to quickly connect with them via through MuleSoft. So rest is very pretty faster. So they provide you the very fast results compared to the SOAP. Now SOAP where to use this? So in all enterprise applications you have to use this. Enterprise applications we have to use this SOAP. So where, for example, a banking systems, so they don't easily connect to the rest. Of course, they have JSON REST base also, but ideally, so banking sector or whichever the applications connect with multiple systems. So we can say them as basically we call as an enterprise applications. So we connect with the SOAP where so they have a bunch of formalities to connect with them. Like say for example, we trying to connect with the order management, right? So they may have HR management, they have a workforce management, so they have resource planning. So it's like a big enterprise application. To connect with them and get the results quickly, you may use SOAP. So their progression of data is not so simple, so that'll be huge one. So dealing data with the huge one, not simple info. So you may have a complex data exchange, or the data which is flowing in also data size would be huge. So basically, we try to connect with the enterprise application in that case. So REST base is something that I connected you quickly, you just quickly respond me back. So for simple applications, always we follow the REST based things. So not for the, of course they can get for the simple application also, but resource utilization is too much high. For REST based, resource utilization is very less. So we say very simple: HTTP request, go get it. HTTP request, go post it. Support, update, whatever you do. So very quick, simple methods we have to connect to some third party. SOAP is not like that. So they will give you a big WSDL file. Among that, one of the service you have to add, and you have to get the response in XML only, and you have to parse them and you have to store them. So what I'm trying to say is, for enterprise application, they are good. I'm gonna give an example for both the system, but I'm saying that for REST basis or web based applications, they're pretty easy. Of course, in the both the type of a structure, like say paradigm, so you have exposed service or consumer service. So someone is exposed a SOAP based service. Yes, of course we can consume them, and we cannot expose a SOAP based service. So majority time we consume them using REST. In Salesforce, what to do is we try to expose the service also possible, and we can try to consume them also as possible. So here, for pretty sure for REST, I can show you expose and consume. So we, as being Salesforce is a web-based application, so they don't try to you to create a web, SOAP-based export service. So they, recommend you to do via through REST, or if your third-party system is there also, so don't worry. So we can consume them. So we have to parse the WSDL file and then we have to do it. Of course, Salesforce is also giving you an export service as a WSDL file. So where we say enterprise WSDL or a partner WSDL, they give a whole bunch. So they give to the third-party system, and they have to connect via through that partner visual file. So I'll tell you what is next and when we're dealing with the SOAP-based systems. What is that visual file, partner visual, or consumer-based visual? What all this I'll tell you about there. But just understand these two things we have. Either majority of the project you ask them is, or it's a REST-based project or SOAP-based project you ask. Okay, SOAP-based. Okay, we have to follow something different. REST-based. Okay, so HTTP methods. So easily you can work with them. Now, when you're dealing with the receiving data in REST, also they could be complex JSON you can request. I mean, you can receive it. So as I said, like you've been working for a wheat service, so they're sending you back what type of wheat that you require, what type of flour that you require. So we have 10 different categories. Choose one among them. So to 10 different category, when they're sending back, they're sending in a list. Again, in that array of list, you may have another data. So here, the JSON is like complex textures can have. Where is that? Few simple structures is like, hey, take this error code, description, success indicator. So they will be very simple. Who knows, sometime so they may have another array of records inside this same JSON which is flowing in, and they also can have another array inside that. So then our structure would be a little complex. Then how to parse them is the one thing which you have to understand. So to read the JSON is easy. Sometimes they are coming in array. So how to process their array of individual records, how to get the first item, how to get the last item. So that time you have to see how do we parse them. So that we have to get the knowledge about. So REST base and a SOAP base, two things we're going to work on. And of course, we're going to measure our time expose and consume the service. So to communicate between both of them, so I need a language. So it should be unique one. So if you talk on JSON, if I get response in JSON, we're good. If I send JSON, I get an XML. So both the systems don't understand and we can't save the record. Again, you have to write some parser. So the parser has to deal that they have to read the structure and they have to save it. If you have some middleware, like these guys, they are giving us the right form what we wanted it. So you tell to the MuleSoft guys, hey, give me the JSON because we're working on systems that JSON. I mean, REST-based systems. Please give the JSON request and response. So we will connect you with the request and we will give the response as this. That's it. So we can communicate with these guys. If it is directly a system which is like a SOAP-based service, so something that we have to have a SOAP-based consume system only. We have to get an XML only. That XML we have to parse and then we have to store in Salesforce. Two ways we have: synchronous and asynchronous. We have synchronous indicates yes, we are trying to request and we're expecting a response instantly. In asynchronous apex or asynchronous integration, where we say we fire it and we forget it. So yes, of course, you can update the records later. You can update the records later side, but we are not waiting for you. So just like an example is broadcast. Um, Broadcasting the messages. Sometimes you get a no response email, no reply email, or you get from a bank some messages. So, or the someone sends from some showroom saying that this is the offer running in. So they all sent you the broadcast message. Again, you will not reply back to those messages only. It's just like one time message you got from them. So they all are fire and forget concept, asynchronous apex or asynchronous integration. So you invoke them. So all the requests which just came in, that's it. So we don't wait for the response. Give me the response. We don't wait for them. So they all fall under the asynchronous integration. So any questions, guys, so far?
No, sir. I'm good.
So what I would do tomorrow is on the rest, we will take one of the service called as rest, and then we will start working on, let's say, synchronous integration. One let's start with. Um, so on the rest base, firstly we have to understand what are the methods we have, where it is used, where it is okay, where it's used, and why we should use it. So these are the few simple questions we'll ask, and then we just proceed on to the REST-based system. So when I talk about HTTP, so we're going to talk few about the methods and uh, how to authorize. So you can tell how to authorize. So we will have few more questions on the REST base and what is the request you're going to send, what is the response you're going to get it. So REST base is something that again in these two things we have been implementing on. So this could be here. On a general note, this is so if we are exposing a service, so something different we follow, then we're consuming a service, so then we have to follow something. So which method are you using for using for and what or consume? Because I should tell you, hey, go get me these records. So I need to say that which method you're using it. If you're exposing service, so what are we exposing? Like say which object data you're exposing and what you're exposing. You getting? So, so as a prerequisite for the rest, what is required is so I think Postman is pretty enough. Postman is a tool. Basically, it's a Google tool. So we need to have this. So please install this Postman, guys. So we would be trying to hit an endpoint there, and we're gonna get the results there. So Postman is the one tool. Like say for example, if you have a knowledge about some SOAP UI, I don't know whether you guys have worked on SOAP UI. So SOAP UI is also a tool for maybe for a web service based systems. You can just see this. Or a Postman for a REST based tool is very good. So we will try to hit to the third party systems and you get the results. So Postman looks something like this. So you have to say who is endpoint, you send a request, so they would send back in a body as a response. So they would send something like this. So I said no, sometimes JSON structure would be complexity when so they have a array of records like this. So arrays are indicated in the square braces. So this is one type of a record we have. and under that they have another fields. And if you get inside, okay, there are another section which is opening up, and they have records. So this record can be one or more. So such type of JSON structure, when you get as a response, it looks like okay. So they are holding a huge information. You have to process them properly. So we'll tell you how to parse this information and store back to Salesforce. So this couple of requests we have, do not worry about it. Okay, no problem. So this IP JSON test something you pass it. So so they should give you which IP, what IP you're using it. Simple service, but anyway, that's not working. So, so we'll connect on this case tomorrow. So we'll be talking about how to expose a service and how to consume a service. On the REST base specifically we don't focus on. And then we're gonna go on to the sub-based service. However, we're gonna work on synchronous and asynchronous methods. Both we have to deal with. So synchronous, you just expect a response. In async, you don't expect a response. So that's it. Any questions here?
No, good. So we need to install Postman.
So that'll be easy for us. So Postman or SOAP UI, both I require because I want to tell you. And sometimes a simple request you can see the results in the Postman itself, and sometimes you may see in SOAP UI if you are processing with XML structure some data as you wanted to do it. I think at least Postman should be good enough. You need to have it in your system.
Okay.
This is the Postman where you need to install this. I think I'll tell you about how do you make a request. See, there are a couple of requests we have made. See, there's a post method. See, so many methods they have. Get, post, put, patch, delete. So there's a very frequent methods on the top five which you see. And all the top fives we will be using in Salesforce. So other things we don't use much, but this top five is very important for us. So let's say how the get request would be, how do you send the response, how do you get the response. All they have, I mean, very nicely they framed it. So we'll see them and we'll work on to this concepts. Okay, tomorrow. If no questions, we can join tomorrow on this more elaborate way for us service how it works. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.